Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 29 of the GVGCast. I am finally, after many weeks out of the host seat, I am back in it finally. I'm so happy to be here. I am, of course, your host, Ash Paulson, and I'm joined today by my good friends and GVG co-founders, Derek Bittner and Steve Bowling. And I am so happy it's Friday. I'm so happy to be here, chilling with my friends, talking about video games. And again, I'm glad to be back in the hosting seat. I have not hosted for a while because of my accident that I had recently. I had to heal up a little bit. Then I got sick from my recent trip to the UK for a wedding. So I wasn't feeling well enough to host last week. Finally doing it again, and I've missed it. And I've missed you guys. Derek, Steve, how you guys doing?
I am doing well, and I'm just going to tell you what Chad is saying real quick. You're like off to one side, so you might want to slide over a little.
You
were so excited.
Positioned that you can see Link behind you. Like it's almost like you want him to be in the frame. It's honestly impressive.
Is that better?
There we go. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Much.
Nice. So how you guys doing?
I am doing great. It's been an awesome past few days. I don't know if the stars aligned perfectly for me or something, but I found out my best friend is coming soon. So we're gonna hang out. I managed to play a bunch of great games. Just overall a really good week.
Awesome. What about you, Derek?
I'm doing all right. I'd say decent week, but also kind of a standard week. Nothing too crazy or different happening. Mostly working on what I can as much as I can throughout the week, and finding that I can squeeze in a little bit of time with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 while watching Kai. So I've been doing that as much as I can.
Nice. I am squeezing as much time in with that game as I can too. As you all know, I have been playing it recently. I'm in chapter 5. And when I'm not playing it, I'm thinking about it because the story is so good. I cannot get enough of this game.
I'm nowhere near the story. I spent most of today just exploring the Nog Desert because it's so freaking huge.
And as an optional area too. It's really huge.
I still can't. There has that question mark in the middle of that area in the desert where there's no obvious way to get to it. And I'm like, how the hell do you get in there?
I wonder. I guess you'll just have to find out a little later.
I've been trying to find. I found a mystery door, but I'm like, is that it? But there's no way to open it yet.
I would say where I am, but the actual name is itself a spoiler, so I'm not going to say. But I'm just going to say I'm in chapter 5. Those of you who have beaten the game or who are as far as I am probably know the location I'm talking about, so I'm not going to mention it. Really quick, before this gets scrolled off my screen, I do want to wish our patron, Joe N, a very happy birthday. Joe N says,
happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
On my birthday. So happy birthday, Joe. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your special day with us. We really appreciate it. And speaking of wonderful people and wonderful patrons, we do have a sponsor for today's episode, and that is, as always, The Game Orb. The Game Orb is a YouTube channel that brings commentary and gameplay footage from the Nintendo Switch and Xbox Series X gaming systems. While games like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu can be seen on the channel, along with others, the Game Orb will also now be adding Splatoon 3, Super Mario Sunshine, and Fall Guys to the gaming collection. So be sure to subscribe to the Game Orb at the link in the description, and as always, I'm going to post a link in our YouTube chat as well. But please do show the Game Orb some love. They have literally been sponsoring us from the very beginning of our existence, of GVG's existence. They've shown us a lot of love over the years.
Much.
So it's weird to say over the years, over the couple of years. It's almost our 2-year anniversary, you guys.
Yep.
That's
just
weird.
A little bit away. 1 month away, exactly.
It's weird.
Yeah, that is crazy to think about. Okay, I just posted Game Orb's link in the chat and pinned it, so please do go check out their content and subscribe. And going back to, I guess, I haven't really been up to much other than working, and then when I do have some free time, playing Xenoblade 3 once my wife goes to sleep. Although she has been kind of following along with it with me as well, and watching the cutscenes, and she's super invested. She's like, "Oh my god, this is really, really good." So we are having a lot of fun, kind of doing that together. Before we get too much into the weeds and too much down to business, I do want to remind everybody that we just had a preview of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet go up on the channel today. And you should definitely check that out. Hands-on impressions are going out, and we have our very own. And we highly encourage you to check that out today. And this once you're not right now, not this very minute because you're watching GVGcast. We want you here. But after that, go check out our Pokemon preview. And speaking of the channel, we've got an exciting announcement to make, don't we, guys?
We do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you remember, not too long ago, we did a subathon, a Patreon subathon for our 100,000 subscriber milestone. And we're going to do another one. We're going to do another one themed around Halloween. And this is going to be next Saturday. So a week from tomorrow. I believe that's the 29th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yes. So Saturday the 29th, we'll be getting started bright and early again at 6 a.m. Pacific, out of respect for John and his being 8 hours ahead.
And disrespecting Ash, which is always important. We got to do those at the same time.
Out of disrespect for me and out of respect for John, we're starting at 6 a.m. Pacific. But as I said, we're going to be doing it around Halloween-themed games. And that means this time we're doing Super Ghouls and Ghosts and Castlevania Bloodlines.
It's a relay race. We got two teams of two where one person starts with, I don't know whether we're starting with Castlevania or Ghouls and Ghosts, but once one finishes, the next starts, and it's still a race. So technically, if you mess with the person that's already playing Castlevania Bloodlines enough, the person that's behind can still easily catch up, even if they're back with the other game. We wanted to get as many involved and keep it 2Ds to make it easier to mess with us and not have us come to a stop with 3D games like what happened with Splatoon.
Yeah, we definitely learned the hard way that being blindfolded or whatever other hazards in a 3D game just kind of caused us to stop, which isn't really fun, out of self-preserving our own lives in games. So it's not as fun to watch when we do that. So we figured we'd stick with 2D games this time, but of course, spooky 2D games, given that it is a Halloween-themed subathon. So as before, there will be plenty of ways to, super chat and mess with us on the fly. We're definitely bringing that back. We know how popular that was with everybody. So yeah, look forward to more details on that pretty soon.
And as far as our Patreon goals, because it is a Patreon subathon.
Yes.
Rather than having us do weird things or extending the games, it's all about unlocking special video ideas.
Right. Yeah. So we have a lot of video ideas that we've got in the works that that can basically be unlocked as we hit new subscriber milestones. And that, of course, is separate from just being able to mess with us on the fly. If you want to do that, we know that you love to mess with us, ruin our lives. We know. So we definitely brought that back. So look forward to more details on that. Probably over the weekend and this week, we're going to get some tweets out about it. Probably a YouTube community post, Patreon post. So again, Saturday the 29th.
The last little tease I'll have is that you guys play your cards right. You could put me back into the Zero suit.
Oh no. and us and potentially other costumes too. This is Halloween themed, so we're not going to reveal too much about what we might actually possibly wear if we hit certain milestones. But yes, Derek is not the only one on deck to potentially be wearing a costume.
Is that a plus or a minus, costume. Old man Jason? That is your choice.
That is in the eye of the beholder, right? So that can be a plus or a minus depending on who you are. So
Cutie Caitlin, I actually do have a onesie for this. So
nice.
Your wish shall be granted. Hopefully.
Well, that's personally always, I don't know about you guys, but that's always been a dream of mine is to see Steve in a onesie. So I'm already
all this cake.
I mean, I'm technically I'm in a onesie too. It's just a tighter onesie.
That's true.
This is getting spicy. Now, see, I was gonna just go for a costume. Maybe I should be doing the onesie thing instead.
There you go.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there for some god-awful reason has probably wanted to see me in a onesie at some point. I don't know why, but there are people who say I should start an OnlyFans for my feet. I don't get that either. So, there's probably someone out there who wants to see me in a onesie. So if Saturday is your jam. Anyway, this is getting way too spicy. It's not even the post show yet. So let's read out some super chats and then get into some of the news from the week. First, we have Duncan Metcalf. Thank you so much. You've been super chatting a lot lately, Duncan.
Yeah, seriously.
With $5 saying, "Hey, GVG, I've been a Kingdom Hearts fan for 13 years. Happy vibes." Well, yeah, I mean, being a Kingdom Hearts fan for any number of years is always happy vibes. So,
yeah.
Hell yeah. Kingdom Hearts owns, and so do you. Thank you, Duncan. Next is $5 from Love Hugh. Still love that name. Love Hugh with $5. Thank you. With examples as Final Fantasy XVI, Astral Chain, and Scarlet Nexus, do you think that the next genre evolution in games is character action RPGs? I don't know. I feel like they've kind of already been around to some extent. Yeah. I guess you could say maybe character action RPGs are evolving from the character action overall genre that kind of maybe started with, I guess, Devil May Cry.
Yeah, they're sort of melding together almost in some ways.
Yeah.
In some games.
Because I guess you could call it like Horizon, for example. Horizon Forbidden West, that would also be a character action RPG. So you may be onto something, Love Hugh.
Yeah,
We're seeing more of those.
I think we're going to see a proper separation of the two genres, though. I think there's still a place for turn-based RPGs to exist, as is evident by all the 2D HD stuff, or HD 2D stuff.
Yeah, plus we just got Persona, and that's absolutely turn-based.
Right.
Yes.
And also, I don't know if I would call Astral Chain an RPG as such.
I never heard it described as such, but
yeah, I feel like you're kind of straddling the line there with Astral Chain.
Yeah, I would say insofar as Zelda is not what I'd consider an RPG, Astral Chain is not an RPG either.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think you still could be onto something with the proliferation of character-focused games in the action RPG genre. Sure.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some kind of. It's almost like I hate to say it this way, but I don't know how else to say it, like the casualizing of RPGs, because I think a lot of folks find like the numbers and interlocking systems and stuff kind of intimidating. And these are kind of like a gateway. I just flipped a bunch of stuff over on my desk. Clearly, I'm passionate about this. I think it's like a gateway to get people into those more complex RPGs. And I think the best example of a game that mixes those two subgenres or genres is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, it has the more complex moving pieces, but feels very much like an action game when you're playing it.
Yeah. Right. And I definitely don't think we're seeing more of these at the exclusion of new turn-based RPGs, because as GCM of Chaos rightly points out, we're still getting Octopath Traveler 2, that Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake, Bravely Default 2 just came out not too long ago.
Probably Dragon Quest 12 is
Dragon Quest.
They're saying they're going to evolve it, but it's probably still going to be pretty.
I was going to say, I'd be shocked if DQ12 was not, a turn-based RPG.
Yeah.
Right. Although this may be the one where they want to evolve the series and maybe
please don't.
I know I don't want them to. I'm not saying I want that. I'm
and
just
as
saying,
Caitlin points out, Like a Dragon is best-selling game in the series.
Yeah, and they've already confirmed that Like a Dragon 8 is going to be a turn-based RPG as well. So I think turn-based JRPG style games are here to stay. Thankfully, I don't want them to go anywhere. I can't stand when people call them outdated or old or boring, because they're none of those things. All right. Next up is Aramis Baramis with $50. Thank you so much for that generous donation, Aramis. Hey, GVG crew, best of luck with the cast. I gotta say, all of the Pokemon previews are getting me pumped. I skipped out on Sword and Shield for a year because of the discourse, but I ended up really enjoying it, and I'm excited to get Scarlet and Violet day one. Mm-hmm. Well, you and me both. I did actually skip out on Sword and Shield, and I didn't ever really play it at all. I've been a lapsed Pokemon fan since I finished X and Y. I love Gen 6, but then I just kind of lapsed in 7 and 8. But everything I've seen of Gen 9 has me pumped to get back into Pokemon proper when Scarlet and Violet come out. I'm really excited. I think we all are, right?
I'd say for the most part. The thing with me that I'm sort of struggling with is, because I have a distinct lack of time and a distinct lack of extra money, and we're not exactly going to be getting an early code from Pokemon Company, so that's not really an option for me. I'm almost wondering if Pokemon sort of caught up with me as Burnout, because I've been covering these games hard for the last, God knows, since Gen 6 basically. So I think it's kind of wearing me down a little bit. Not that I don't think it looks bad or anything. I think it still looks fantastic, and it could still be a extremely good game. It just, for me personally, it's like, where do I want to put my time and effort? And yeah, even Arceus I enjoyed, because that was very different. But I'll eventually get it. I'm sure I'll definitely get it at some point, because Pokemon's still great,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's do one more super chat for now, and then we'll read the rest out throughout the rest of the show. But I want to get into some news as well. But we've got Jaden Buck with $10. Thank you, Jaden. And we got the latest crazy question. So Crazy Question Fridays, crazy question number 55. So for John, he's got Kiddy Kong, and for Steve, he's got the Minions. But for Derek and Ash, who or what would you guys classify as your mortal enemy? That's a great question. Man,
it's kind of a joke it was a joke for a while for my personal streams, but when I did my Castlevania marathon, Death kept showing up, so Death was kind of my mortal enemy. And it's we made the common joke of we avenged Luigi, because of the whole Smash Bros thing.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I Death is probably the closest one for me. I don't hate Sticker Star as much as Chugga Khan, right? So I don't
Right.
think I can do that. But yeah, there's a certain moment that's like an immortal enemy of that.
Man, I don't know. I probably would have said Silver the Hedgehog before because he's such a just an absolutely grating, awful character in Sonic 06. Like by far, my favorite scene in Sonic 06 is that amazing cutscene where Shadow just kicks him in the face, and you get that sound. It's great. Sorry for those of you wearing headphones. And I hated Silver in Sonic 06, but I also know that he's a lot more palatable in other Sonic games that he's in, like the Rivals games and stuff. So he's gotten
Doesn't get
better
to
over the
do
years.
much.
Yeah.
I hear he's great in the comics. I think that's where he's been sort of rehabilitated.
Okay, so I'm going to go full scorched earth here and give a pretty. This is probably not an answer some people are going to want to hear, but here's the thing. A lot of people tell me I'm crazy for this. I don't love the Lord of the Rings movies, right? And I actually, wait for it, prefer the Hobbit movies. I know I'm terrible. I'm sorry. I haven't read the books, so I don't have those to compare them to.
Nobody
but I
read the
actually do
books.
prefer the Hobbit
I
movies.
read the books.
There you go. So I actually do prefer the Hobbit movies over Lord of the Rings ones. But here's why. Because I can't stand Frodo. He single-handedly ruined those movies for me because he's just, I'm like, Sam, you deserve better, man. And he's just, I know he's got the ring and everything, but he's just whines and always getting in trouble and kidnapped and hurt and poisoned. And yeah, I just couldn't stand him. And he ruined those movies for me. So I got to give it to Frodo. I know that was probably not the answer anyone expected, but
No.
yeah, I
No,
gotta
I
give
can't
it
say
to
I saw Frodo, but the thing
Yeah.
that always gets me, Frodo has the worst case of when you put things off. I'm blanking on the actual term.
Procrastination.
Procrastination I've ever seen in my life, because in the movies you have that scene of keep it secret, keep it safe. It's actually the ring, and you need to take care of this. I think he waits like 30 or 40 years before he actually goes on the quest.
Really?
Gandalf comes back and it's like,
wow.
what the hell are you still doing here for?
Okay.
Go. That's just how lazy hobbits are.
Now, Becca in our live audience chat points out, she says
17
he's
years.
3 feet tall. Of course he's going to get kidnapped. To which my counterpoint to that is, yeah, but Bilbo in the Hobbit movies is a flawed but perfectly capable protagonist and isn't getting kidnapped all the time just because he's 3 feet tall. So I don't think that's...
No, it's the dwarves getting kidnapped. The
It's the
dwarves can't do
dwarves, really.
anything without freaking Bilbo.
Like I found Bilbo to be so much more relatable and fun to watch throughout those movies. So no, I don't think that's a successful defense of Frodo. I'm sorry. This is a video game focused channel, though. Believe it or not, if you were to tune in and never watching the show before, you'd be like, "What the hell?
There's a ton of Lord of the Rings video games.
True. But we
Yes.
do actually have video game news to talk about this week. Quite a bit of it, in fact. And let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. The Bayonetta 3 thing, I think, is probably what we should go ahead and talk about first, because it's a bit of a downer, a lot of a downer. And, we want to get the downer stuff out of the way first on this show. So you all know already about the Bayonetta 3 controversy surrounding Helena Taylor and her claims that she was lowballed by Platinum Games and or Nintendo for her work in Bayonetta 3, thus leading them to replace her. There's been a lot of ugliness on both sides. Just a lot of back and forth. Platinum, I should say, sources close to Bloomberg, specifically Jason Schreier, have now pointed out essentially that her claims are only half truths, and this is all, of course, alleged, but that actually they allegedly offered her around $4,000 for multiple sessions, like for up to I think 3 to 4 sessions, meaning that she would have made closer to 15, 16K instead of the 4K for her work on the entire game as she initially claimed. And now she's saying again that is completely untrue. Platinum is lying. And now Jennifer Hale, the new voice actress of Bayonetta, has kind of gotten into the mix, defending Platinum, trying to defend the game's launch and say, hey, just remember that a lot of people worked on this game. A lot of work went into this game. This isn't just about the actors, and please support their hard work. Platinum has since tweeted out a message in support of Jennifer Hale. So it's a lot of grossness on all sides. But yeah, I've been talking long enough. Steve, go for it.
I have big thoughts on this, and I want to just so I'm gonna put on my living in the real world hat for a minute, because I want you to think. So there's one fact of this thing that is totally not in dispute, and that's the amount of time and the amount of work, and that is 20 hours over 5 days. So I just want to point that out because I think all of us, ourselves as hosts and our audience, everyone is going to agree with this. I've never made $4,000 in 5 days of working half days. I've never made, and I'm not saying it's an agreeable amount. I understand industries are different. I understand completely that people have different lifestyles, but I consider myself in my day job, and I'm not going to go into what I make at my day job because that's personal, but I consider myself not to be underpaid. I don't make anywhere remotely close to $4,000 in 5 days. Like, not even close. I'm lucky if I make that in a full pay period of working 80 hours. So
there is that aspect, but
I know
also,
that it's
the complicated part is that how much the games make. And the thing is,
right.
I think she tossed out a huge number, and Bayonetta is beloved, but it's also never been a huge moneymaker. Like, it struggled to get, like, Nintendo had to help in order for it to get a sequel. Right.
I think that there are some systemic issues in the voice acting industry, particularly as it relates to games. I'm not saying that that 4,000 is a fair number, but I'm also saying, like, I don't really buy the whole I can't afford to eat. Like I've had months where I've made far less than that, and been able to eat. I think that, you know, I think that there's a level of, but I also, like, I don't think that Jason Schreier would get this wrong. Like,
I don't either. That's a huge point about this, is that he's incredibly reliable as a reporter.
He's incredibly reliable, and it's not just him saying it. And I'll take the VGC corroboration and throw that one in the trash, because I frankly don't believe. I mean, these are the Waddle Dee Knows guys. I don't. I'm not saying, like, oh, look at these guys, but Jason Schreier's former boss, Stephen Totillo, who by himself is also an incredibly well-respected journalist, corroborates having seen these documents.
Right.
And I don't think that Platinum or Nintendo are stupid enough to take a risk at doctoring a document to do a controlled leak to the media.
Right.
You know, because if they were found out, the blowback from that would be infinitely worse than
right.
if than the situation as is. Even if you know, the Helena Baker's allegations were were completely true. If they were completely true, that would be nowhere near as bad as if Nintendo or Platinum were found out faking documents to make themselves look better.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
it's the other tricky thing is that the thing is, it's believable that she's been underpaid, because so many other actors have been underpaid, and
that is a systemic problem in games.
Yeah,
voice
it
actors
is
being
a
underpaid.
massive problem with voice actors. Yeah, especially in the anime industry, we heard about the Jujutsu Kaisen movie situation where one actor got paid $150.
That
is made
absurd.
like 23 million. It's like,
yeah,
geez.
Oh yeah,
it preys on that sort of thing, and you know, this brought to light other video game issues where the Zelda actors didn't get really paid that much for Breath of the Wild. It's can be an issue. It's why it's the whole push for unionization. So I think that's why it's so readily believable, but and also why it does bring something that needs to be discussed to light. It does good in that. But as far as her personal claims and her own situation, that's where it gets murky. And honestly, like, while I was on her side at the beginning, and because it was just so believable, but it's no. Well, like the stuff that's come out, and as you said with this Jason Schreier and whatnot, it's just that. And I'm not saying about how, like, the fact that she gets paid a lot compared to what we make. That's its own thing, makes its own much. Yeah. And honestly, a lot of this would be solved if there was residuals. Residuals would help a lot, because Nintendo got away with not having to pay a lot of money by using canned work for Smash Brothers, for example.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So and because there's no residuals, even though they're using their voice again from previous sessions, that they don't need to re-record, don't have to get fresh stuff, they're not getting paid for it.
And that's pretty common, by the way, too. Like my dad, for example, is in Smash Brothers Ultimate and Smash 4 as the Gray Fox as his trophy, and I often get asked if he recorded new lines for that, and no, he didn't. They're lifted straight from the Twin Snakes for that reason, so they wouldn't have to pay,
Yeah.
pay him for that, and that's very common. And
I saw a thing where there was like a little bit of Hakuna Matata used in Toy Story, and just from Imran's article, he had this anecdote, and the actor who played Pumbaa saw this, contacted his agent because Disney never contacted him about approval for this, even though it's because their song, their voices, they get residuals, and all of a sudden he's making thousands of dollars every time Toy Story gets played because of that song, and residuals can really stack up.
Right. And that's something I feel very strongly about. And full disclosure, I am pretty close to this situation because of my dad. My dad is obviously a very prolific voice actor. He has very strong opinions about stuff like this. And I'm also a friend of Jennifer Hale. He and I both are. And I do strongly believe that there is a major systemic problem with voice actors getting lowballed and underpaid in games and anime, period, across the board. And that's why I think this situation in particular is so damaging to that cause, because, and we're never going to know the full truth about this, but if, as Jason Schreier's sources suggest, Helena's reports or Helena's claims are only half-truths, then she's doing a lot of damage to her own cause by not being fully truthful about all this, by saying, oh, they only offered me $4,000. Well, is that true, or did they offer you $4,000 per session for 4 to 5 sessions? That's a completely different story. And, is it true that she demanded a 6-figure salary plus lifetime residuals? Do I think she should have gotten the residuals? Absolutely. 6 figures for Bayonetta? No way.
Yeah,
that is absurd. And even my dad, we were talking about that, and I explained to him kind of the relative size of the Bayonetta franchise, went through some sales figures with him, and he was like, and he's a voice actor. He wants to defend voice actors, but even he was like, she was asking for way too much. It sounds as though she had an inflated idea of just how big the Bayonetta franchise actually is. And I think that's very much what happened here. Maybe Smash contributed to that. I don't know. But I do think she deserved those residuals. And I think voice actors in general should get them. I think they should be entitled to them.
Residuals would help so much.
Yeah.
In general, I think.
Yeah. I think that's the answer is, they profit off the back of how many performances they sell, so to speak, right? Like how well that game performs or that piece of media. I do think there should be like an upfront payment. I have no clue about the voice acting industry and what a fair wage is. Like I said, when I look at it from my low place on society's totem pole, I'm like, damn, that seems like a lot even at what she said.
But that's also like the main role. That's the thing.
No, I agree. I agree that it should.
You're talking to citizen number 5, you're not going to get that much money.
Right, exactly. And I strongly recommend, Derek has referenced it, but our good friend and previous guest, Imran Khan, who has his own Patreon, who I'm proudly subscribed to, dropped an article with his full take on this, where he breaks down some really interesting stuff about it. I recommend you go give that a read. It's available for free somewhere. I don't know where. For free on his Patreon. Perfect. So yeah,
it's public, just straight up on his Patreon.
So. On his Patreon, it's Pros and Cons, PROSE, like lyrical prose. He laments picking that name, by the way, but because he's like, no one knows how to spell it. But I would recommend checking that out for his thoughts. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that he kind of guesses at how the $450 million estimate for Bayonetta came about, and it was literally like going to VG charts and like counting up the number of copies and multiplying it by $60, which is definitely like really bad math, but does check out.
VG charts is not accurate whatsoever when it comes to those sales.
Yeah, exactly. Those are guesses at best. So yeah, I recommend reading Imran's whole thing. It's huge and it surmises it in a really intelligent way. But yeah, I think I agree with you, Ash. It's like damaging to the cause. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle between both sides, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think of what it comes down to, I don't think maybe I'm sticking my foot in my mouth, and I apologize if I ended up doing this, but I think looking at the situation as a whole, personally, I think you don't need to worry about boycotting Bayonetta anymore. I don't know if that's a problem in this case. It's hard to say because of NDAs and stuff, but the fact that they paid for Jennifer Hale, which is inarguably a bigger actress than Helena Taylor, so they put forth money there.
Right. That's kind of the problem I have with her story. I agree with you 100%. It's like, there's no way. I mean, just to put it in context, if you're a better, more practiced person in any field, you're going to be able to demand a higher wage. Right. And if they wanted to lowball Helena, why would they go with someone like Jennifer Hale?
Exactly. That makes Jennifer Hale she's a legend in the industry.
She's freaking Cinderella.
Yeah. I mean, Jennifer Hale is not someone you get for cheap ever. So that claim at the very beginning of all this doesn't quite pass muster, because they're clearly willing to pay for Jennifer freaking Hale. Yeah. And she doesn't come cheap.
So I don't think there's any reason to boycott anymore in that way. That said, absolutely support voice actors and their causes to try to get to get better pay, residuals, unionize, all that stuff. That is absolutely, like, that is the one good thing to come from this, is just raising more attention for that issue. Is you just kind of shooting yourself in the foot at the same time by lying about, well, potentially lying, because it's unconfirmed.
It's all alleged.
Yeah.
But don't let this situation automatically cause you to assume that voice actors are lying to get more than they're entitled to. There is a real problem here with voice actors being underpaid and lowballed. And look, if you want to boycott Bayonetta 3, that's your choice. But if you're going to do that, then you might as well boycott a bunch of other games that have voices you love in them too, because I guarantee you Bayo 3 is not the only game whose development has lowballed its voice actors. So, if you're going to choose to boycott one of them, you might as well boycott everything that, every game that's ever had voice actors lowballed or underpaid, right? So, and here's the other thing I have, and again, I'm saying all this from the position of being on the voice actor's side. Again, my dad's a voice actor, so I'm always going to be speaking from that side. But another issue I have with what Taylor did here, 2 weeks out from the game's launch, she calls straight out for a boycott of the game, which completely ignores every other person who worked on the game. It's not just about the actors. It's about the programmers, the artists, the designers, the composers. Like, so much work and so many people go into the development of most games. And to then call for a boycott 2 weeks out from the game's launch and just throw a hand grenade and everything speaks to a lot of disrespect or a lack of respect for every single other person who worked on the game. So I just definitely believe voice actors, they need to be paid better. There is a problem here, but I don't know that Helena Taylor went about this the right way, especially if she did tell half-truths. Again, we don't know.
Might have just, she likely just torpedoed her own career in this, which if it led to anything like improving for other actors, then good on, working out in the end, but I don't know what her end goal was if she is lying about this.
Right. And again, we can't speak from authority whether she is lying or not. We're never going to know the full truth. All of this is just alleged. But it's really hard it's really hard to overlook Jason Schreier's reporting here, because, again, his reporting is usually rock solid. He's a reliable reporter. And so it's hard not to take that at face value,
Yeah, and to be clear, because I see a lot of people talking about this, Kamiya did not handle the situation well.
Oh no,
absolutely true.
He went his typical method, and that was not the way to go.
That was not the right move. He should not have been tweeting through it. He needed to just shut up and let their lawyers handle it.
He absolutely did. Yeah,
I think we've probably covered this pretty well enough, so we can move on from this. And Steve, you've been playing something fun.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I got lucky this morning in my inbox. Sony sent along a code for God of War Ragnarok. And I'm not allowed to talk too much about it, but I got permission to talk about what I've played so far, which is the first 3 hours of the game. It popped up at 6 a.m. today, and I slept. I woke up this morning and found that it had been sitting in my inbox for a few hours. So,
okay, nice.
Yeah, I picked it up, and I was fortunate. I kind of knew, I knew, and I couldn't tell anybody for obvious reasons that we were going to get the game. So I had played through all of God of War 2018 last week to kind of refresh my memory, not just about the story beats, which fortunately, if you've never played God of War 2018, Ragnarok actually has a recap option right on the title screen, so you can watch
Nice.
all the events, like all the major beats of the last game, because the one you absolutely have to have played or at least watch that recap to have any clue why the things going on in the beginning of Ragnarok are important.
Okay.
But God of War 2018, one of the prettiest games on the PlayStation 4. Absolutely gorgeous to look at. And even playing through it, as recently as last week, I was thinking like, okay, it's a really gorgeous game. How exactly are they going to improve upon it? And obviously the obvious things are there. Ragnarok is stunning on the PS5. Like, it is a gorgeous game. I am really torn between whether it or Horizon looks better.
Wow, that's high praise.
Yeah, because and to be fair, Horizon and Ragnarok are both cross-gen titles. So it's there are some things that feel PS4-y in nature about Ragnarok. A lot of sliding through cracks, boosting people over walls, the typical like load screen hiding techniques that became commonplace in the last generation are still there because this isn't a PS5 only game, so you can't do the cool stuff that like Ratchet and Clank did, right?
Right.
You can't just like, so when you fast travel, you still like walk through a portal and go down a hall and then another door appears when it's done loading. All that stuff is still there, and I'm sure that on the PS5 it's just window dressing so that the experience is the same. But you wait, you're in some ways it's very similar to the beginning of God of War 2018. You're in your house, Atreus is with you, and then obviously, without going into spoiler territory, things start to happen that set you on an adventure. You get a visit from a deity who is obviously going to fight with you. Yeah, and to be fair, Sony has publicly shown that part of the game.
That's just another day for Kratos at this point.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say though is I don't know if it's Nintendo or who it is, but I've been trained for sequels to take me out of feeling powerful at the beginning of a game. Like, Metroid, Samus always loses all her stuff. That's not the case here. Like, you have all the things you had at the end of God of War 2018. In fact, like some of them are just like hanging out around your house and you have to pick them up before you leave. He's like, oh yeah, I had this.
Let's equip this.
Yeah, I need this weapon that I got in the end game. So it's really cool that you have those from the start. All the characters that if you played 2018 that and love are there. And I still haven't played far enough to know what the main questline of this game is. I think God of War 2018 did a good job of like introducing you to the main questline right up front, similar to how Breath of the Wild is like, hey, kill Ganon, he's over there. God of War is like, hey, you're gonna go do this thing, and that's the most, that's your overriding objective for the whole game. I don't have that yet. I don't know what it is, but I can say, without going into spoilers, this game is utterly beautiful. It feels a lot more slow and deliberate in terms of the combat. I think in God of War,
slowed it down even further. That's interesting.
Yeah, they slowed it down. Like the particularly using the Leviathan axe has a lot of weight behind it now, and the triggers actually like lock up when you swing with like R2 for the heavy swing. You feel like you have to push through it. The haptics are really good, but I haven't experienced. So if you haven't seen anything of God of War, the beginning of Ragnarok takes place in winter. So I haven't seen any like really cool DualSense haptic stuff going on because there's no like rain or any really crazy environmental stuff going on.
You're not feeling the crunch of the snow?
No, actually, believe it or not, which is kind of surprising. But it's like knee-deep snow, so maybe that's why. Like, there's a lot of snow on the ground in this game. There's a lot of inclement weather. But one thing that I felt was really cool is if you remember from God of War 2018, you could charge Kratos' axe throw, and his arms would start to shake, like as he charged it fully, and you actually feel the triggers start to rattle under your fingers when you charge it that far, which is really cool. But yeah, so for those of you that want to know, the part that I played culminated in the fight with Thor that Sony published a trailer for today, or I think it was maybe a couple days ago. But the Thor fight is probably close to as epic as the initial fight with the stranger at the beginning of God
I
of
was
War
going to
2018.
say that stranger fight
Yeah.
blew me away when I first. I
It's an epic
haven't
fight.
played a lot of the original God of War 2018, but that stranger fight was just like, holy hell! Okay, there's the advantage of always being at this perspective from Kratos because you feel that fight.
Oh yeah, there is. It takes similar beats to that, but I will say that the scale of the battle between Kratos and Thor is far more epic than Kratos and the Stranger. Like, you literally go places. Like, he uppercuts you, bam, like hits you, you go flying through the sky, like you hit a mountain and you end up somewhere else.
Nice. So someone like me, Steve, if you were talking to someone like me for whom the God of War 2018 didn't quite hit, and I don't know why, I've started and dropped it about 4 times now, most recently on the PS5, and I recognize that it's a great game. I'm not saying it's not, but it just, for whatever reason, has not grabbed me. But I've looked at the trailers for Ragnarok, and I think they look great. I do kind of want to play Ragnarok, but do you think you could recommend it to someone like me who just didn't really feel much about the 2018 game?
I don't think I can.
Okay.
You know, I think that if God of War 2018 was your thing, then Ragnarok is just an improvement so far, like in many ways. It's too early to say if the narrative obviously is an improvement, but I think God of War 2018's greatest strength is its story. Like, it's a deeply interesting story about, you know, a lot of things, like the bond between Kratos and his son, his, you know, learning more about his relationship with his wife,
I do like that, yeah.
discovering, you know, more about the character as he's matured and how he views his own past. Because if you've played the previous God of War games, Kratos was a very different person in those
That's
games.
for sure.
Yeah, it was.
No, this is the first time I've ever liked Kratos as a character. Like, 2018 was the first time I ever sat up and, like, I was like, oh, this is a character I actually like. I find intriguing, but the game, for whatever reason, just didn't grab me in the same way.
It should be actually interesting if replaying God of War 2018 eventually. Now that I actually have a son.
Yeah.
I wonder if it hits different now.
I would imagine it does. I obviously only have daughters, but there's definitely parts where you get into that understanding of Kratos's rage, where you're like, I mean, not to, you know, I don't think it's a spoiler that obviously in a game about fighting monsters that occasionally Kratos's kid gets a backhand, you know, or something. And
Yeah.
I will say that it is intensely satisfying as a parent when one of those things happens and Kratos just flips out and murks the dude that did it. Like, I'm like, I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah, it's really fun because there is a lot of, and this is talking about God of War 2018 to be clear, there is a lot of tension between Kratos and his son in that game where where it's like you wonder, they really kind of string you along, like, is Kratos a good dad? Like, he might not be.
They really do. Yeah.
But you can kind of, even very early on in the game, you can kind of see Kratos's desire to be more caring with his son. And obviously that relationship has evolved in Ragnarok. Atreus, Kratos' son, is much older. He's like taller. He has a deeper voice, which was really weird coming right off of 2018 to hear him, like, you know,
It's like going directly from Kingdom Hearts 1 to 2.
yeah, it was definitely interesting. So, you know, impressions are early. I've only played a few hours, but so far I have to say that Ragnarok is fantastic. Like, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm excited to see where the story goes, especially because, and again, no spoilers, but there is a huge potential plot element dangled in front of the player at the end of 2018 that they just leave open. So I want to know if that thing they showed us in 18 is going to happen in Ragnarok. Because that would be huge. And I will say early on in the game, they referenced that. So if you know if you know, you know, but I'm not going to say it.
Right.
But so far, so good.
Nice.
Stay tuned. We'll have the full review, I think, on November 3rd, when I can actually show you footage and show you what the game looks like. And I'll do comparisons to the PS4 version and all that good stuff. And I'll have a foreword about God of War 2018. We're gonna try something a little different with this one.
You know, maybe after Xenoblade 3, maybe I'll try to pick up my most recent save and keep going. Maybe I just haven't gotten to the point yet where it grabs me. Because I feel like I feel like I should really want to play these games. I know that sounds silly to say, but I feel like I'm missing out. Even though I didn't like 2018 so far, my time with it, I still feel like I'm missing out by not finding a way to enjoy it. I know that sounds weird, but maybe I'll give it one more shot after I'm finished with Xenoblade 3, because Ragnarok does look so good from the trailers.
Well, as Juan Delgado points out, God of War Ragnarok comes out right at the same time as Sonic Frontiers.
That's true. Okay, it's going to be after Sonic for sure. I mean, Sonic is definitely a higher priority for me. You all know me. There's no question in my mind that Sonic comes first for me. But I just heard that out loud. Okay, let's move on to some super chats.
Let's do some super chats before we get back into that final story. But yeah,
all right, let's do some super chats. So
we have a lot.
We do. Fossilized Nerd, I love that name, with $10. Thank you, Fossilized Nerd. Hey crew, I've been listening since pre-Smash Wii U discussion days, but this is my first time making it to a live show. I'm one of the Spotify listeners. Here's to a smooth weekend for us all. Well,
very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening on Spotify. Thank you for being patient while the episode a couple of weeks ago was slightly late. And thanks for listening, and I hope you have a smooth weekend as well. Next is $5 from our good friend Vedron. Thank you, Vedron. Happy Friday. Hope your week's been well. Really enjoying Sparks of Hope. It's beating Xenoblade 3 for me. All the best and keep up the good work. That is high praise. I want to check out Sparks of Hope, but just can't fit it in right now.
Yeah, same. I want to play it really badly, but I just don't have time.
Yeah.
Amy's son, like I was like, it's an Ubisoft game, the Switch game. I can wait and get it for cheaper. So that was my plan. But Amy's son, Ryan, he was literally doing a countdown for this game. So
nice.
He bought it with his own money. He gave me the case to hold in my collection, but he's just holding on to the game itself to play. And I said I can play it anytime I want, but it's just like I don't know when I'm gonna have the time. But he's really enjoying it, so that's cool. He's still a little weirded out by the rabbits talking.
Yeah, I want to see.
That's weird. I want to see that and just hear more of that in the game, because that's just such a weird concept to me, them talking, just period. Yeah. Next up is $5 with Rec, from Rec BCQ. Thank you, Rec. Always great to see you all talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm in love with that game. I like so many tweets about the game. I'm essentially an XC3 fan account. I have to be very careful on Twitter because I don't, I've already had one thing spoiled for me. Ended up being relatively minor, but I tweet very carefully about XC3, and I don't necessarily read the replies just in case someone accidentally spoils something. So, but I can't wait to.
Did you pick up the expansion pass, Ash? Because is pretty cool and does expand things on the map.
So I haven't yet, and that's actually why, is because she expands things on the map, and the place I'm at in the game is already this massive area to explore with all this cool side stuff to do, and I'm so desperate to see what happens in the story. I don't want yet even more content to pull me away from it. So I might finish the story and then grab the expansion pass and check out the new parts of the map. There's already so much. I'm already like 25 levels over where I need to be. There's already so much extra stuff to do in that game. Nightshade with $2. Thank you. GVG Gang rocks. Happy P5R release day. Well, you rock. You rock too. Yeah. Thank you, Nightshade, and happy P5R release day.
And I hope you're playing it on Switch. It's awesome there.
I can't wait to check it out on Switch. I have a Fight a Founder session next week where I'm playing Persona 5 Royal, and I think I'm going to do it on the Switch. After all, I was going to do it on PS5, but then I saw they're charging like $70, like full price.
You know what though? I will say I think it's on Game Pass.
Oh,
it is on Game Pass.
Oh, well, then I might just do that.
I was going to say, save yourself.
It's on Game Pass.
Yeah.
The thing that's nuts to me is it sucks to me is I have no reason to pick up Persona 5 Royal. I already have it on PS4. If they would just have a free upgrade to the PS5 version, that'd be wonderful. But no, for some reason, you got to buy the whole dang thing again.
Really?
Yeah, which is really gross.
Yeah, there's no upgrade option. It's not like what they just announced.
That is
you have to buy the game brand new.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I mean, like I would even take like
very Atlas
$5 or even maybe $10 for an upgrade fee, because I get it, it's a new release or whatever, but I mean full price, like is that $70 or is it 60?
70 from what I understand. Oh, is it?
I thought it was 60, but maybe
it is 60. It is 60.
Okay.
That is unconscionable in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, as Cutie Caitlin points out, it does have all the DLC, which the DLC can get pricey, but it's also nothing major. It's mostly costumes.
Yeah, but if you have P5R on PS4, then you already bought that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really should not be full price if you're upgrading. That's just kind of kind of a gross practice in my opinion. I'm not saying it has to be free. I agree with you, Steve. Even $5 or $10 would be fine. But yeah, if you already bought it, I don't love the idea of rebuying it.
Hey, Caitlin, I didn't buy Tropical Freeze.
I didn't either.
I didn't either. I didn't rebuy Tropical Freeze.
Integrity maintained. We didn't buy that.
Yeah, I have it on Wii U. I did not rebuy it on Switch. I was fine not paying full price for that. And I would agree with that too, Caitlin. Okay, next up is Breck BCQ again with $2. Thank you. Saying don't wear anything that requires an OnlyFans.
Wait,
no,
are you?
Good advice.
You should put a comma in there. Don't wear anything, comma that requires an OnlyFans.
Yes.
There you go. That's perfect.
Words to live by. Okay, Mr. Juan Up with $10. Thank you, Juan. Good evening, GVG. Hope you're all doing well. Quick question for you guys. Do you think Star Fox could work as a bullet hell type game? Would love to hear what you think. Take care of yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure,
Could.
why not?
Yeah, I would take anything Star Fox at this point. Just give me something new.
You could turn Star Fox into a top-down bullet hell shooter for just like an eShop game.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
I mean, look at what they do with Star Fox Guard. If Star Fox can be what Star Fox Guard is, Star Fox can definitely be a bullet hell shooter, I would say. I'd love to see them experiment a little more with Star Fox.
Give it the treasure.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Oh, hell yes. Yes.
Please.
That would be awesome. All right. Last super chat for now. Then we'll move on to our last little news story of the day. Bongo Lover, our good friend Bongo Lover with $5 Canadian asking, why did Mr. Kamiya block me? I just wanted to know if he drank animals. We almost could have gotten Bongo as a playable character in Bayo 3 SMH.
Now, to be fair, as Imran pointed out in his thing, he blocks most English speakers that reply to him because most English speakers are the ones that harass him.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like say some pretty heinous crap to him.
And I guess that was the one thing I was going to mention, Derek, before we kind of swiftly moved on to God of War. And I think I want to bring it back really quick and say the one thing I think we can all agree on, no matter which side of this issue you fall on, don't harass people. If you're harassing somebody for any reason,
don't harass Taylor, don't harass Hale,
don't harass. Exactly. Don't harass Kamiya. Don't harass anybody. Harassment's not okay ever. And if you've done that, you're already wrong, no matter which side you're on. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I actually interviewed Kamiya after he blocked me on Twitter, and he was like, and I mentioned it to him during the interview, and he's like, I'm not going to unblock you. I was like, all right, fine. Just know that you've put a face to one of your blocked accounts.
That's so great.
The worst part was I got blocked. No joke. I had tweeted at Kamiya in Japanese. I had replied in Japanese, and someone replied to my reply in English and said, block this fool, LOL. So he did.
What? That's ridiculous. I somehow I check every once in a while just to see if I somehow got randomly blocked. I have not been. For whatever reason, he has not blocked me yet.
But I also I don't follow Kamiya or anything like that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I follow him. I just don't tweet at him. I don't really have any reason to. And the one thing I would say is, hey, Okami too, and he'd block me right away. So all right. Well, we do have one more little thing to discuss today, news-wise, and that is that a little upcoming game called Final Fantasy XVI got a new trailer called Ambition. And have all three of us watched it? I have.
Yes,
I did. Yes.
Okay. I'll go ahead and get what I was going to say out of the way first because it's a bit of a downer. I've said before that FF16 has not grabbed me yet, and that is still unfortunately true. I'm still going to play it on day one. I'm not not going to play it. I love Final Fantasy, and one of my favorite things about Final Fantasy is the fact that it is so experimental that sometimes new mainline games, I'm not a big fan of them, and that's okay. But 16 is reminding me a lot of 12 in tone and style, and I wasn't a fan of 12, and it's still reminding me of that. And I don't know. I want to be excited, but for me, I think I'm more just waiting for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's just, yeah. But what about you? What about you guys? How are you feeling?
I've learned, particularly with Final Fantasy, that I need to keep my mind open.
Sure.
15, I thought was fantastic. I really enjoyed 15, and every trailer told me I wouldn't like it. So I'm cautiously optimistic about 16. I liked the trailer. I think the Western influence isn't necessarily what I personally wish Square Enix was going for. But, I looked at Elden Ring and I was like, this game's going to suck. And then I played it to death and I loved it. So, I'm keeping an open mind here. As long as the mechanics are good, then I think I'm going to enjoy this. And just like you, Ash, regardless of what my take is before playing it, I'm picking it up day one.
Yeah,
it's a new mainline Final Fantasy. It at least deserves being played.
And it has some pedigree behind it as far as who's making it. So you have to have some trust in that. Like, it may not be a version that you are used to with Final Fantasy, but I think there's enough new ideas and enough things in here that I'm intrigued, and especially because this might be our first M-rated mainline Final Fantasy.
That's true.
Because I saw that at the beginning. It's like, okay, I knew this was darker, but really, they're okay with it being M-rated? And then you have that scene where the dude gets cut in half and the blood splatters all over the kid. I'm like, oh my god! All right,
yeah,
that's
yeah. And I mean, and to be fair, like when FF9 was first announced, I remember I wasn't sure how I felt about the overall vibe and tone, and wasn't sure I was going to like it going in, and it ended up being one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. I love 9 now, so I may end up loving 16. I just, I admit it. I'm just a big weeaboo. I love my anime style Final Fantasy games. You guys know me. The more anime, the better. And I love games like FF10 and 13 and 7.
The way I see it, though, we're getting more anime style Final Fantasy than probably at any point in history right now. Like, we're getting Ever Crisis. We're getting
Crisis Core Reunion.
Crisis Core Reunion.
And
we're
if
getting
you want to think about it, you're getting Berserk. It's the Berserk anime.
True.
Yeah, that too. Berserk was a very heavily, like, in terms of themes, like Western influenced anime, and it's fantastic.
And it's funny too, because I was, I often will watch some of these new trailers with my wife and kind of get her take on things she likes games, but she's not like an enthusiast like I am. She doesn't live and breathe games, but she likes them. And she was just also the same. She was like, I don't know.
I watched it with Amy, but I could have told you that she would not be down for
I figured she wouldn't.
Is too violent, too dark, right? Too depressing, a little too violent. And that's the one thing I was hoping for. One Kingdom and at least have some kind of color. And that's is one thing. Like,
there's like no color in this world. Yeah.
There needs to be a little bit of color somewhere. So I hope we see that.
I'm sure there will be. Like, I mean, it can't completely be like war torn everywhere. I'm sure you'll find little pockets of like peace, somewhere.
Yeah.
I have to ask though, Derek, on a personal note, when you want to consume a piece of media like this, because it's come up before, what do you guys do? Like, if you want to watch something bloody and like Final Fantasy 16, as gory as it may potentially be, would also be something that you'd probably spend 50 to 100 hours playing. So how do you sneak it by? Like, do you just like play it on the smallest screen you got, or what's the plan to get something like an M-rated game?
Oh, I have not really considered. I mean, I have a monitor here that I usually play and record off of, and then Amy will play on the main TV over here if she's with me, and that's how I played Resident Evil 8.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because she's really squeamish, right?
Yeah, and she'll glance over and whatever, but she doesn't have to look at it. So it's just right here. So I just play.
We're going to get Derek like a VR headset where he can just play on a virtual projection TV that's like 100 inches. I actually have tried that before, but the lag is too like untenable to play an actual game on.
Right.
But yeah, no, it does seem as though this might be our first M-rated Final Fantasy. That one scene with the blood spatter was quite shocking. And look, at the end of the day, as Steve and I have said, it's still Final Fantasy. Despite how we feel about a new one going into it, we're still going to pick it up day one. I'm still looking forward to it completely changing my mind and blowing me away. Just right now, not feeling it. But that might change. Fair. All right, so let's read out a few more super chats and get on to our patron topics for the day as we close out the show. First off, we have Lizard81288 with $10. Thank you. RIP G4. From what the host said, it came down to executive mismanagement, like paying $30,000 for a studio or trying to sell a cable package to millennials. They fired the staff via tweet. Screw Comcast. Yeah, the whole thing, the way that whole thing went down from G4, the fact that Gerard, our friend Gerard, found out he lost his job through a Wario64 tweet is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Apparently the one guy made a office and had designed it like Emperor Palpatine's throne, but then never used the office. And it was like the biggest thing. Because of the rights issues, they had to make sure it was always out of shot.
That's amazing.
So why would you, oh man, so it sounds like a lot of just mismanaged money, misappropriated money, management not really knowing what they're doing. And
apparently management was also paying streamers to raid G4.
That is just so gross. What?
Yeah. I forget who it was they paid, but they paid somebody $20,000 to raid them.
That is it sounds as though they were trying.
I'd take the money, but
it sounds as though they were trying to throw lots of money at the problem of not really knowing how to fit in with today's audiences and how to, today's audience for G4, it looks a lot different, I think, than audiences did 10, 15, 20 years ago in terms of technology available, the way their kind of work is done now. And it sounds like they just tried to throw a bunch of money at that problem and couldn't solve it.
Well, the sad part is they had a lot of great building blocks. I mean, the talent that they hired was top notch. Gerard's an amazing talent. Not to say nothing of all the other incredibly talented people that were involved with G4. The studio kicked ass. I've seen pictures of the studio. I have a few friends who have been in the studio, and like you said, Ash, we have friends who worked at G4. So the studio was really great. They had those, and honestly, I mean, if our friends at Kinda Funny have proven anything, it's that a good studio and top-notch talent can take you a very long way.
That is true. Easy allies as well.
Yeah, it's amazing that they did not find the secret sauce there. Like on paper, it looked like all the right things, but it is, when you get corporate interests involved in things like this, it's bound to go badly at some point. I guess the only silver lining I would say is that I'm glad that this happened quickly. And I know that sounds kind of like weird, but these are all folks, like all the folks that were working at G4, on camera talent, I should say, because I feel truly gutted for the people that weren't the on-screen talent, but Gerard, the other folks that were working on screen as talent all had successful, thriving YouTube or Twitch careers outside of this. And so those folks didn't invest so heavily that they like cut off those other things that they've been a part of, so they can reinvest in their own personal things where they get all the money from them.
Now that said, if somebody out there wants to throw us a bunch of money to hire Gerard here, we'd love to have him. So
I think
need a lot of
he's
money.
worth a little bit more than we are.
Just a bit.
But Comcast, if you want to come and give us money and then like fuck off into the sun and leave us alone, we'll take your money. I will gladly accept your money. I just won't give you anything in return.
Yeah.
Or I could provide you with terrible service like your home internet. Ask me how I know.
Yeah. All right. We had another super chat from Duncan Metcalf. You are so generous. Thank you, Duncan. $5. Wii U to Switch ports I want are Tekken Tag Tournament 2 and Zombie U. Those are two great ones. I would add Yoshi's Woolly World to that list. I love that game and want to see it on Switch.
Xenoblade X.
Yeah, I was going to go with Xenoblade X. I feel like Tekken Tag 2 was fun. I would definitely do that one. I wouldn't do Zombie U. I wouldn't do Zombie U because the best part about Zombie U was the gamepad. And right now, for whatever reason, you can't replicate that.
That would be like Nintendo Land on Switch. It just wouldn't hit the same, I guess.
Right. I think there would be a way to do it, but I think it would be a little bit laggier than Wii U's native solution. But hey, I would take any Wii U ports on the Switch. If I could get rid of my Wii U's and have no other reason to play them anymore, it would just save me some spots in my entertainment center. Right.
$5 Canadian from Mark Ferrer. Thank you, Mark. Ryoko was recast in the Tenchi Muyo dub due to a pay dispute too. But yes, the voice actor industry needs an overhaul. Yeah, certainly. I think we all agree on that. Jacomon with €5. Thank you very much. Just like there is a hashtag new deal for animation, a hashtag new deal for VAs trend needs to start on Twitter. Yeah, I think that would be a great starting point for that. Absolutely. All right, one more super chat for now, and then we'll get on to our Patron topics for the week. Claxon with $19.99, essentially $20. Thank you very much, Claxon. Wait, VG Charts is unreliable? I just used their data for a report on sales on Mega Man and Metroid for a team project and a class on game development. Is there a more reliable source as it's due Monday, so I still have time? There aren't a lot of great sources out there. From what I understand, you
have to rely on from the company itself, and a lot of times, wikis will tell you.
Well, to be clear, they're not a lot of like end user facing tools like us, the regular people, but folks like Daniel Ahmad and other industry analysts, they have like their own like industry set of tools that they pay a lot of money for, where they can track sales data for pretty much anything. But unfortunately on our side of the fence, VG Charts is probably the closest you're going to get. And for a school report, I'd say it's fine. It's just if you're trying to make a sound like...
Well, I see Squire, public schools chastise me plenty to avoid using wiki. Wikis are fine if you have a source. Like, that's the thing. A lot of times they'll have a source, all those sources at the end. Click on those and double check yourself and find the original source.
And cite those.
Use wiki to find those. Yeah. Find those and use those. So you find it using wiki to compile it and then get the other, get the actual source. You can at least find it a little easier.
Yeah.
Juan Delgado, my source is that I made it the fuck up, which is 99% of the internet.
Yeah.
Also, going back to a Wii U port for a second, I just have to highlight what Betty Noms Bunsies said here in our live audience chat. I love that name, by the way. Nobody's saying NES Remix. Y'all got to look at yourselves in the mirror. You're right,
That's fair.
Betty. NES Remix, totally fair point.
Still a shame we never got SNES
I
Remix.
know, right? That still hurts. All right. Well, we'll read out the rest of the super chats at the end of the show. But for now, as always, we have our patron topics to discuss. And just as a reminder, our patrons at the producer tier and above get to suggest topics for us to discuss each week right here on GVGcast. And if you want to know more about how you can get in on that action, head on over to patreon.com/GVGaming. But for now, Steve, why don't you start us off, man?
All right, I've got a long one. This one's from Akil P, but I thought this question was really interesting when I saw it, so I wanted to throw this out. So Akil P writes, sorry for the long question, but I've thought about this for a while, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on this one. Why do many games reward their most dedicated players by making the games easier? For example, take a game like Metroid. It's possible to beat any of the Metroid games without picking up every collectible in the game. However, the most dedicated players who go out of their way to do the most demanding platforming challenges are rewarded with more health, missiles, and bombs. Getting these additional upgrades makes the rest of the game easier to get through. In the end, the players that go through hardest parts of the game are rewarded with an easier endgame, which seems like a bit of an inverse relationship to me. I feel like I see this kind of system in so many of the games that I play, not just Metroid. I get that devs need to reward players with something for completing the hardest challenges and puzzles. Maybe there's a different kind of reward that wouldn't make the game easier. Maybe the game's difficulty could be adjusted based on how many upgrades the players collected. Anyway, sorry for the super long question. Keep up the great work, guys. Definitely a super long question. Not going to argue on that one, but I think it's a really good and interesting point. Good one. And I'm going to just break it down as simply as I can. My answer will be shorter than your question, and I apologize. So there are definitely competing schools of thought within game design for this. But what it comes down to is you're servicing two different kinds of player, right? And core to the idea of video games, and I think in most games this is true. These days, not as much, but certainly like in the early days of game design, is the idea of the power fantasy. And the idea that as you progress through a game, not only do you build your skill as a player, but the character you are playing as becomes more powerful. So you are, and there's something that is truly enjoyable about that, which is why, despite, in a lot of Metroid games, despite the amount of things you collect, Samus routinely receives some kind of insane power-up right at the very end of the game before the escape sequence. I'm not going to spoil Dread, but it has one. Super Metroid has one. And these are meant to make you feel like in those final moments of the game, like you're just an unstoppable force. Like you've completed all the challenge the game has to offer, and now you're just kicking ass on your way out of the game. A lot of games also offer an insanely OP weapon if you 100% complete the game. And I think that's just to make the player feel like, okay, I have conquered this, and now there's nothing that can stand in my way.
It also allows for the people the speedrun. Let's take Breath of the Wild. Not a very hard game when you get to the very end and have all your upgrades and all that stuff, or going through everything. You're not gonna struggle for that final boss. But as we've shown, some people are just really good at it and speedrun to get to Ganon and just tear it down as quick as possible in under an hour. Just go straight to the end. Yep. And some people are just that good and enjoy that challenge. So obviously, if they went for everything, they're going to just utterly they'll be probably bored by it at that point. But
precisely.
I think it's one of those things where I don't mind it because people who struggle can use those extra tools, and they're not always hard to find. Most of the hard ones I think of when it came to Metroid Dread was some of those final challenges, those last few items, but there's only 5 out of 100. You'll still be more powerful. At that point, it's just a completionist idea.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's tough
in which you get artwork if you're completing every single area. So they try that.
I think it's
Yeah.
also tough because there can't be a one size fits all approach, right? Because different people want different things from their games.
Right.
As Steve kind of touched on, a lot of people do want that power fantasy. They want to feel their character getting stronger throughout the game and have that God mode moment at the end where they just are slaughtering whatever enemy is standing in front of them. And that is something that a lot of people like about character progression in games. But I also see where you're coming from, Akil, where yeah, if you want that challenge to be maintained and scale up along with your character growth, a lot of games that like what you're talking about don't necessarily offer that. And one thing go ahead, Steve.
I was going to offer a differing design choice on that regard, actually.
Okay.
But go ahead, finish your thought before I jump in with this.
Well, what I was going to say is I have seen, kind of a recent trend where some games will offer kind of a way to deal with that. And what I'm referring to in this case is I loved how Xenoblade 2, I think it was, let you readjust. You could level down temporarily if you want to keep your characters in line with the levels of the enemies at the part of the game you're at. Because as we all know, it is very easy to get over leveled in Xenoblade games. And I kind of wish, I don't know why this feature's missing in 3, but I do kind of wish I could level my party down.
They're going to add it later.
I feel like they probably are.
At some point.
But there are games that let you scale your, manually scale your character levels to where you are in the game, and I think that's probably a really good way to service both audiences. Both people who just want to be super OP and those who'd rather stay.
Apparently, it's in the
lockstep.
post game.
Oh, it's in the post game. Okay, well, it should be in the main game.
That's
but okay,
weird. Yeah,
that's
but
cool.
oh well.
All right, but yeah, Steve, go ahead, man.
Go ahead, Derek.
Oh no, you go first because mine's not very much.
I was gonna say one way that I can summarize that feeling of like the power fantasy and in Breath of the Wild when you encounter Ganon, like when you're at the last boss, if you have the Master Sword, when Link pulls it out and like puts it to the side and then it starts to glow, I'm like, yeah, he's a badass now. I got him. Like he's gonna kick Ganon's ass now. But the inverse is actually true as well. There are games, specifically still picking on Nintendo, that are widely considered to be easy and get more difficult the more you complete. Specifically, like Mario. Like Mario is known for having tough as nails, like Champion Road type levels that test your mettle as a Mario player. They're vastly more difficult than the majority of the rest of the game. So I do think. Yep, Kirby, same thing. I was just playing Kirby's Endgame the other night with my daughter, and she was like, "This is too hard." She's like, "I don't want to."
It gets hard, yeah.
So Kirby, Mario. Typically, it seems like Nintendo specifically likes, if the game skews more difficult, then they try to make it easier as you approach the end game. And if the game skews easier, they try to give you they try to kind of give you an experience that runs counter to the rest of the game to make it more interesting. But I think it's a great question. I think that, you just tend to see it more in easier games, that the difficulty ramps up sharply as you go through, as you reach, the post game.
And as a completely different reward for completing things and mastering more of the game, I think the Sonic Generations, I love completing that game because it got me more music, which allowed me to replay other levels and search for those things and have that alternate music. And when you have a soundtrack as good as Sonic, that's a damn good reward. And I was so happy to just like choose different songs and blast through those levels. It was great.
Please remake that game.
And then, Akil, you mentioned specifically Metroid Dread, but I would actually argue that Metroid Dread and maybe Metroid in general is an example of a series that I think does a pretty good job with managing power creep, in the sense that, yeah, Samus is incredibly powerful and a badass by the end of the game, but enemies still hit really hard at the end of the game too. So if, it still comes down to pattern recognition. You're not going to beat the final boss if you don't learn those patterns, because that final boss still hits really damn hard.
As somebody who played Dread Mode, you can gather as much as you want. You will still die in that one hit.
Exactly. So I feel like, even if you're playing on the standard difficulty, if you don't learn those patterns, take just a few hits really, and you're pretty much going to die. So I think Metroid is a good example of a series that manages power creep pretty well, but it's certainly true that not all games do that, for sure. So yeah, that was a great question. And by the way, Steve, I would argue that your answer was longer than
yeah, it might have been. I thought I was going to go real quick, and I had more thoughts than I thought.
All right, Derek, what's your question for the week, man?
So mine comes from Jack Sammons saying, With Silent Hill getting 3 new games and a remake with various different creative teams, which dormant video game series would you like to see receive the same treatment, and what game devs should join for each project?
Ooh.
And that was an easy one for me. Castlevania. Give
Go.
Castlevania some love. Get it back. And as for what teams, I don't know. There's a lot of great indie Metroidvania creators out there. It doesn't have to be Team Cherry or anything like that, but you can get some really good ideas in there, and somebody may be capable of a good 3D Castlevania. 3D Castlevania can work. We've seen it.
Yeah.
I will say the Lords of Shadow games are pretty good. I love Lords of Shadow too. It has a rough beginning, but once you get into it, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Castlevania, I certainly agree with that. I mean, you guys already know where I'm going with this. Rhythm Heaven. Obviously, I would like it to be designed by the Rhythm Heaven team with the Nintendo, but I'm actually going to throw out a bit of a curveball here. Our former TNT guest and a really good friend of mine, James Montagna, is a director over at Way Forward, and he showed me, I can't like talk specifically about it, but he showed me one time a prototype he designed for a Rhythm Heaven game, and that prototype showed me that he absolutely gets the series. He understands what makes that series so amazing, and so I'd say hand a new Rhythm Heaven game to Way Forward and let him direct it, let him make it, because I know he'd kill it. And Nintendo don't seem to be interested in doing one themselves. So, and then of course, I'm going to throw out the other obvious answer: Mega Man X, Mega Man Legends. I'd love to have X9, Legends 3. I can't say I'd want to outsource them though. I mean, I feel like
I would.
Would you?
My answer was Legends 3 and give it to Arc System Works, just because they have mastered, like they've perfected the cell shading art style.
That's true. That's true.
The art style would be good, but who would?
I would do a partnership between.
I
would do a partnership between them and Arika, who typically picks up Capcom's slack on a lot of games. I feel like Arika could do the core mechanics of the game justice.
Yeah, that's true. That could work.
If One Piece Odyssey ends up good, maybe.
I've played it. I've played it. It's so bad.
Oh, is it? I was gonna say
really,
maybe because it looks good, so maybe Ilka, but apparently it doesn't play good.
It's beautiful, but it plays like garbage. It's such it's like Jump Force level bad.
Oh no.
Actually no, and I spoke too quickly. I would gladly hand X9 to Inti. I think Inti Creates could kill it with X9. They killed it with the Zero series.
Let them finish ZX.
I know, let them, or just give ZX3 to Inti and let them finish it as well. But yeah, I mean, certainly, I also think Yacht Club Games could absolutely kill it with a Mega Man game or a Mega Man X game. But on the reason I said what I said was Mega Man 11 was really good, and it was made internally at Capcom, and I would like to see what Capcom themselves could do with X9. I'm not necessarily on the automatic outsourcing train, but I can certainly there are certainly developers out there who would kill it, who I would trust with the series.
Yeah. Oh, I have to put out there Shenmue and RGG Studio.
Oh God! Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like an obvious layup of a choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for that question, Jack. And by the way, hell yes, was I love just being able to read that. Was Silent Hill getting 3 new games? Silent Hill's getting 3 new games, you guys. Like, I still can't believe that. We were there to react to it, and I still can't believe it. It's great. All right. My question this week comes from Jason Uloa, who asks, there were many failed gaming consoles in the past. If you could go back in time to give one of these a second chance, which ones would you fix? And this was just, I picked this because I just wanted to use it as an excuse to talk about my love for the Sega Saturn. I would love for the Sega Saturn to have had a second chance. There were so many reasons it failed. Obviously, the marketing stunt, with the sudden release that Sega pulled with it, that was obviously the death knell for that system. It didn't handle 3D well. It was primarily designed for 2D games, but I happen to love 2D games, and I loved a lot of the 2D games on the Saturn. And it just felt that almost as soon as I bought that thing and enjoyed it, it was already on its way out. And the Saturn for me is kind of like that hidden jewel of Sega's glory days that I feel like often gets looked over. And I'm a big Sega fan, and I miss the Saturn, and I always wished that it had more staying power, even though I get why it didn't.
I had a Saturn, but the problem was I was too young to know what games were good for it. So I just had trouble finding good games. So if I could go back to the Saturn era and actually know what I wanted to get and get a couple of these Japanese exclusives over here, like let's put some effort in there, that would help out, I think, a lot. But I'm also seeing a lot of people mention the Dreamcast. But before that, yeah, Dreamcast.
I had to go get mine because I couldn't not talk about it.
Hell yeah! I knew you were gonna I had to talk about the Saturn. I've
never I've never owned a Dreamcast. Never picked up a Dreamcast.
Great little system.
I'm gonna mail you a Dreamcast. Everybody should have one.
The Dreamcast would be my number 2 answer for sure. Like Saturn's number 1, but Dreamcast would be number 2 for me.
We just need those. We get those Genesis collections. Give us some Saturn and Dreamcast collections.
I want a Saturn Mini. I don't care how expensive it is. I'll buy it. I just want it.
The Dreamcast is easily, like, I would say until the Switch, it was my favorite console ever.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. The funny thing is, only experience I have with the Dreamcast is I was with a group playing Sonic. What was the Sonic Party game called? Sonic
Shuffle.
Shuffle.
That game sucks.
It sucks. But also, holy crap, the Dreamcast is loud.
Yes.
Yeah. And it did inexplicably had the wire coming out of the front of the controller, which is one of the most annoying design decisions ever. Even though I like the controller otherwise, the VMUs were cool, but why would you ever have the controller coming out of the front?
Yeah, it was such a weird design. And then they put the little notch on the back of it at the top so you could loop it so that it would be in the right place.
Yeah, no sense.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, I had a feeling, Steve, that your answer would be the Dreamcast. If
absolutely.
Not the Saturn along with me.
The Dreamcast, and I've got Power Stone in my Dreamcast right now.
Nice.
Ooh, there you go.
I love this console to death, and to the point that I'm literally like, this one feels like it's on its way out, and I'm either going to mod it or just buy another one. I can't not own a functioning Dreamcast.
Yeah.
What would I pick? A failed console? You know what? I didn't get a chance to play it much. Nobody really talked about it much when I was a kid, but I feel like the TurboGrafx 16 needed a second chance because there's a lot of good games on that.
There are.
Bravo, man, baby.
I picked up the Graphics 16 Mini to play a bunch of those. So
wasn't that the one that was insanely pricey, like in the 90s?
It was
like the Neo Geo was crazy. It was like
Neo Geo was
basically in the 90s, but
really was just a way to play
Jaguar
arcade games
too.
At home. But
yeah, the TG16 though was still around like $400 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was really expensive, and I think the Jaguar was around the same thing. Same price, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the Jaguar was terrible.
Oh, it was terrible. I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying I wanted it to come back, but yeah, the 3D or the TurboGrafx 16 was a genuinely good system.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it needs a revival because it's just an offshoot of an existing console or handheld, but I do want to throw out some love for the Game Boy Micro. Nobody ever talks about it.
Ew.
Nobody really remembers it.
No, my hands are too big.
Yeah.
See, I've got big hands too, but I still liked it. I thought it was really cool. I got the Famicom.
I had a friend let me hold it. And I was like, I'm going to break this thing.
I bought it and I traded in my SP for it because it was the newest Game Boy, and I was so pissed at myself. Like,
I wouldn't want to trade anything. I like having it as an additional option, but I wouldn't want to trade the SP for it or something. Definitely not. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I was so mad at myself. I was like, Reggie pulled it out of a shirt pocket.
Why would you trade your SP though?
I was broke, man. I just wanted the newest Game Boy. I was like, I gotta go get. I was working at Target like maybe 10 hours a week at the time. Like I was making nothing.
Juan Delgado in our live audience chat asks, "No love for the Wii U?" And I mean, it's not. I like the Wii U for what it was, but I think it served its purpose. The Wii U walks, the Switch could run. And I don't.
Yeah,
it's two great games are on the Switch.
Exactly. That's why even though it is by every metric a failed console, I can play those games on an objectively better machine very easily.
And but I will always love the Wii U and pour one out for it because it will always be the system that first gave me Mega Man and Smash on the big screen. So that will always be an honor that only the Wii U can hold, and I'll always love it for that. But yeah, thank you for that question, Jason. That was a lot of fun. And once again, if you want to suggest topics for us to discuss on future GVG casts, head on over to patreon.com/gvgaming and join us at the producer tier. With that said, we do have a few more super chats to read out before we head out to our post show here. So here we go. Zoob M with $2. Thank you. That's a new name, Zoob. Nice to meet you. Who are your top 6 favorite video game kitties? That's a lot of kitties to name off the top of our heads.
The
all
cat
of a
from
sudden.
Stray 6 times.
There you go. I mean, I gotta throw
the
out,
various cats around Fire Emblem Three Houses.
there you go. I gotta throw out Tango from Mega Man. You know, Mega Man does indeed have a cat. A lot of people forget that. Who else? Anybody else at the top of our heads?
Nia, there you go.
Nia. There you go. Nia. Yeah. That.
I mean,
yeah,
I can't think of her as a cat.
Yeah, they're not actually cats though. That's the thing. Nia and Mia aren't really like actually cats.
Morgana from Persona.
Oh yeah,
There you
Morgana.
go. Sprigatito, good one, Jaden.
I've never seen
Wilmark
Tango
actually would
before.
count.
I just had to look her up.
Oh, you haven't? Yeah, Tango's a real well, not a real cat, a real Mega Man's real cat.
Real Mega Man character.
He was only in one game. Well, technically two,
Oh, yeah,
but
Blaze.
he was only playable in or
Blaze
part
the Cat
of
is
the
definitely
gameplay.
one.
Oh, Blaze
And
is a good
Big.
one. Yeah, and Big. I don't know if that Big would be a favorite though.
Big is definitely a favorite. I love
Ironically.
Big.
Sprigatito, good one, Jaden. But Tango is only in Mega Man 5 for the Game Boy. That's why a lot of people don't know about him. Or the Game Boy version of 5. Thank you for that, Zoop. Next is, yet again, Duncan Metcalf with $5 more. Jeez, thank you. My top 3 Switch games are Fire Emblem Three Houses, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Well, those are all great choices, Duncan.
Yeah.
Certainly, Smash is probably my number 1, Smash Ultimate.
I would probably swap Smash out, but Fire Emblem and Breath of the Wild are definitely in my top 3. I don't know what I would put in place of Smash, though.
My top is
probably Odyssey.
As of right now, it's Dragon Quest 11. We'll see if Xenoblade 3 replaces it, because it was once it went Xenoblade 2, then Dragon Quest 11, and now a new challenger has arrived.
I agree with you, Derek. I think right now it's probably from just Switch. It's Smash Ultimate, DQ11S, and Xenoblade 3 might be my number 3 right now. I'm not quite sure yet, but Xenoblade 3 is making a really strong case. So, yeah. Excuse me.
Sorry, I have to read this out real quick just because it's between our super chats. Moon Goes Doodles, only thing I know of God of War 2018 is one thing. Boy.
Boy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Next is CJ Azayami with $4.99. Thank you very much. And I found your question here. There's no question in the super chat, but you posted it down below, CJ. What is your biggest insecurity? Ooh, this just got real.
This
man.
Like this whole thing we do is my biggest insecurity. Like especially when I do a video where I'm on camera, I'm like, people like all over the world are going to see my face, and at least one person is going to say something about my appearance. Like, I hate it. I hate it. It drives me crazy.
Fair enough.
Voice.
Your voice.
I stumble a lot. I had a stutter. I had to go to speech therapy because my L's and R's are messed up. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, obviously that thing that I struggled with as a kid is the thing I use the most in my job. It's like, let's use the voice. You work through it.
I probably I'm definitely one of those people, I feel very sheepish, walking around at the beach with my shirt off and stuff. And that's not just because I'm not in great shape. I need to obviously work out more, but even when I was in amazing shape, when I was playing in my DDR days and stuff, I never felt good looking at myself in the mirror and stuff with my shirt off. So I probably have some sort of body dysmorphia thing going on, which I would think is probably a pretty good one. I also have, some people know this already, but I love my dad to death, but he casts a really large shadow. And so I always feel like I'm trying to keep up or catch up, or just trying to, leave my own mark, which is a little hard when your dad has left such a huge mark in entertainment. And so I have a little bit of insecurity about that, but I really trying my best to work through that. And I remind myself that we both have done awesome things in our own fields, and it's not a competition. Good question. Unexpectedly real, CJ, but thank you for that. Next up is Hell's a Poppin' with $5. Thank you. In the grand scheme, was Kamiya out of line in the situation? Didn't harass/attack anyone tweeting and blocking on your personal account is a right on Bird app on Twitter. I mean, I think he was unnecessarily
he played his character. Yeah, he played his character as he always did, which was not the best decision at that time.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think he was out of line necessarily, but the way in which he the problem is,
if you don't know Kamiya's shtick, then it looks really bad.
Yeah, right. and the other part of it too is that this is something that probably should have been settled. I mean, granted, it was brought out into the open, but it should have been settled behind closed doors, even after what she did. They should have like
Exactly.
had their legal team reach out to her and say like, hey, we're reaching out on behalf of Platinum. Let's make this right however we can, and then we'll release a joint statement. Like, you shouldn't, like, you shouldn't just show your whole ass on Twitter when you represent a larger group of people. Like,
Exactly.
you know, if I go out on my personal Twitter and I say something fucking terrible, like, it's gonna look bad for Ash and Derek because we're all together on a podcast every week. So I have to think about how the things I do on social media impact the people around me, even if it is just my account, because suddenly they'll say, oh, hey, Ash and Derek are friends with Steve, who is an asshole. That's going on out of context.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's video game, or not even video game, just PR 101. If you represent a large company or any company or other people at all, period, you have to be careful what you say on social media. And he just, his doing his shtick on Twitter in this case didn't help the situation at all. But of course, it is his right to block whomever he wants, even if the reasons are stupid, whatever. That is absolutely his right, and you're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Dr. Wolfstar with $5. Thank you very much. Ash, has your dad ever voiced a video game? And maybe unfair question, but how much did he get paid? Just to compare for the salary to see if it's fair. He's done several video games. I'm not at liberty to talk about how much he gets paid. Frankly speaking, I don't know. So that's true. I don't know. But even if I did know, that's not my business to discuss. That's, his money. But yeah, he's done several video games. He was Leon Ronso and Tobley in Final Fantasy X-2. He was Gray Fox in Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. He was unfortunately Bubsy in Bubsy 3D. He's done a few roles here and there, but he's mainly in the animation space. He's not a hugely prolific video game voice actor. His biggest role was in games was Gray Fox, aka the Cyborg Ninja from Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. Thank you for that question, Dr. Wolfstar. Next up is Alan Wilkinson with £2. Thank you very much. Ash plus black bodysuit plus pink skirt equals WS dot. I don't know if I even want to imagine myself in that combination of clothing. I'm not sure. WS dot? Do you guys know what that means?
The Warner Sister Dot.
Yeah, Warner Sister Dot.
Oh, of course. Oh, the Warner Sister Dot. That makes, I think let's just stick to Dot being Dot. I don't think anybody needs to see me dressing up as Dot. Also, it's funny, I didn't think about this, but Raphael in Shredder's Revenge, that does technically count. He is the voice of Raphael in the 80s cartoon, and he reprised his role in in Shredder's Revenge. So that is definitely true. All right, next is John Salter with $5. I'm going to be blunt. I kind of thought the G4 TV relaunch was always doomed to fail. I didn't think it would implode this badly, though. And you know what, John? I have to agree. Of course, hindsight's 2020, but I didn't necessarily have a lot of faith in the relaunch.
I never watched. I'll be honest.
I tuned in, but the problem I had is that when G4 was on the airwaves, like the literal airwaves, I didn't watch it then, and I never thought that G4 engendered that kind of nostalgia that would drive like a big response from folks primarily in our age group, because it was targeted at folks in our age group back then. And it certainly wasn't going to capture like, younger people with the way they were. I mainly
just watch X-Play. Like most of the other shows bored me.
Oh, I thought G4 back on cable was like the height of gaming media cringe.
Yeah, it so was. And I used to love watching it, even if it was cringy. I kind of fell off of X-Play, though, when I can't remember exactly when this started happening, but they had a very obvious anti-Japanese games bent on that show at some point. And that's when I stopped. Like, they had a serious hate on for Japanese games, JRPGs, Nintendo. They would just trash them constantly, Adam and Morgan both. And that's kind of when I fell off. I was like, I don't think my tastes align with this show anymore.
Yeah, I never felt like I needed to watch just because it was like, I feel like I get better content from my magazines.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. God, so many super chats, everybody. You're all so generous. Lizard81288 is back with $5 more. Thank you. When Resident Evil 4 Remake comes to Switch Cloud Gaming, will Capcom re-release the chainsaw controller? Let's hope so.
We can only hope.
That chainsaw controller was ridiculous, man.
Who made that? Was that Mad Cats?
I don't know. I think it was Mad Cats. Yeah, have the haptics of the blades were when you do certain things.
Man, that thing is ridiculous. It's $1,000 on eBay to get one.
Makes me wish I had picked it up as a kid, because I would see it in the GameStop. And
I saw it all the time, and I was like, "How stupid is this?" It was made by
Newbie
Tech. new.
And this is where I remind everybody that Capcom did, in fact, at one point create a Mega Man X themed GameCube controller for the release of Command Mission, where the start button is literally X's head jewel, and it's the coolest thing. And I have one, and I will never ever sell it.
Oh, nice!
It's so cool. Yeah. All right. Our good friend Titus Malvolio with $5. Thank you, Titus. Just got off work and I'm having deja vu hearing the three of you in my ear once more on a Friday commute home. Much love, friends. Well, much love to you too. Hope you have a safe drive home. Hopefully you're not still driving home and you're listening to the rest of the show from the comfort of your sofa or bed or whatever. Thank you, Titus. Stephen Turquoise with $4.99. Thank you very much, Stephen. I just want to let Steve know that I loved your Pokemon preview. Thank you. You all made my day. I can't wait for the review and the discussion of the game. Well, thank you,
Not
Steve.
sure
thank you.
if we'll get a review, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I want to do something with the game when it comes out, but we're going to need time because like we said, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company do not give us early review access to these games, which makes it way harder to be part of the conversation about them when they come out. Hopefully that changes at some point, but I will nearly guarantee you it will not change in time for Pokemon, unfortunately. But yeah, also I just have to point out, like, I voiced the preview, but it was written by Adam Abu-Nasser from Nintendo World Report. Yeah. He helped us out by going to the event because it was in New York and they still only let people who live in the city go to them. So
yeah, we're willing to travel there, but they won't let us yet. I think it's because of the pandemic,
it's
right?
It's not exactly easy for me to get there.
Right.
Yeah. So,
anymore.
We pulled it together as best we could, and we're really grateful to NWR for loaning us one of their best to do the preview for us. I just put a voice to those words. So, but yeah, game sounds great. Really excited to play it, and I do hope we'll have some more content on it later, but we'll have to see once it comes out.
Yep. Next up is $4.99 from our good friend Super Dank Awesome Unicorn Guy, who just rejoined the Fight a Founder tier. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
A dead console conversation with no mention of the Intellivision Amico. For shame. What are we even doing here, guys? How could we forget the Amico? Come on.
Of course.
Yeah. And then finally, Claxon with $19.99. Thank you so much. Steve, you look great. Derek, I have speech problems too, but it's awesome you pushed through it. Ash, your opinion on game music means a lot to me, and once my semester is over, I have at least one awesome track for you. Well, thank you for all the kind words and so cool vibes, Claxon. Yeah, thank you very much. And I echo Claxon's opinions, Steve and Derek. You both are awesome and wonderful, and I love you both.
Oh, well, thank you.
I think that is a perfect note to end episode 29 of the GVGcast off. Thank you all so much for watching. We love doing this every week with you guys. I'm so happy to be back hosting the show again, too. It has been way too long, and we love you all. As always, we do have to give a special thank you to all of our patrons in the producer tier who helps make this show happen, because without you, this show would not be possible. None of what we do would be possible. So thank you so much to all of our producers. But also, as always, we have to give an extra special thank you to all of our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. And those fine, wonderful, amazing folks include Brandon Bovia, Cutie Caitlin, Fangs, Dan and Twistle, Z Patty, Just Brian, Sky Blue Flames, Eastman 23, Adam O'Sullivan, Richard Herrera, Logan Daniel, Christopher Baque, The D-Pad, Vesmio, Waffle King, Critter XD, Kitty Kong Facts, Angel Martinez, Vedran Hotik, Joshua Hunter, Benny Yao, Azran127, Black King, Pagrima, Geller, Joseph Rutkin, Titus Malvolio, Geeky Griffin, Lucky Wonderfish, Kyle, Wataniac, Top Dog 23100, Young Ben Kenobi, Doug Showmix, Andrew Medeiros, Brady Power, Becca, Rocks the Cat, Killamox, Eddie B, Kid Fisto, Jessica Toad, Deanit, Sci-Fi Lullabies, Michael McCaw, Nope, Matthew Wong, Goron Amber, Straight Lace, Justin Matthews, Too Much Spaghetti, Bane 400, Ascaron 809, Ryaner, Nathan Steele, Spicy Pan Otter, Rain and Clouds, The Game Orb, Dano the Artist, Super Gamer Dude 101, Grantles, Ravelox, Rosa Pardo Bowling.
Hi, Mom.
Mega Ampster, Kane Woolley, Darksteel 01, Jason Uloa, Jaden Buck, Cystic Warrior 29, DJ Jurassic, Super Dank Awesome Unicorn Guy, Dinner Sonic, Derek, Nova the Artist, Colin, Blaystar 25, Mumbling Yeti, Cameron Sharp, Screamo Shaman, Mason Riley, Keel, Willow Pingree, Moon Knight, Ray Clausen, Brendan Hesse, Noah Fitterer, Calvin Atkinson, Ryan's Fault, Brainchild, Pat Pending, Jen Wakeland, Lauren Bond, Long Boy Shiggy. That gets me every single time. Long Boy Shiggy, Andy Mine P, Ad, Kyle the Monarch, Alpha Lion, Lord Metarex, Kyle Gamer and Barry Rookie, Jay Brox, Salad Dinner, Revolver Axolot, Datboy64, Blaze Collard, Eric, Danielle Crowder, Alex Westover, Cat Evie Person 5, and last but certainly not least, Lady Maxillary. God, I missed reading that list. Thank you all so much for your incredible generosity in supporting us and everything we do. If you want to check us out on Patreon and get in on all this fun stuff we do here, head on over to patreon.com/gvgaming. And one of those fun things we're about to do right now is our patron exclusive post show, which we're about to go do right this very moment. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Good night and good vibes. Bye.
Bye everyone.